But now it's perfectly legal, yet it kills 5,000 Kiwis a year. And that's why the Māori Party wants smoking in this country stubbed out by 2025. Right now, the government's calling for public submissions on its plans to introduce plain pack cigarettes this year. The same move in Australia resulted in a legal throwdown with Big Tobacco that claims it does nothing to stop people lighting up. So who's right? Well, joining me now to debate the issue is Māori Party co-leader Marama Fox and Imperial Tobacco's Corporate Affairs Director Axel Geets, who has travelled from the UK especially to be on the show this morning. Welcome to you both. If I can start with you, Mr. Geets, smoking kills around 6 million people around the globe a year. So to kick things off, is it a good thing to smoke?
Look, the fact that smoking leads to diseases has been known for more than 50 years. We've been printing health warnings in this country on our packs since 1973. You will not find one person in the streets of Auckland who won't tell you it's bad for you.
I'm asking you, is it bad for you? And is it a good thing to smoke?
People make choices. 17% of the adult population in this country choose to smoke. That's a fact. It's also a fact that 70% of the price of a packet of cigarettes is taxes. We don't sell tobacco, we sell taxes. So as long as consumers want a perfectly legal product, fully knowing what it may or may not do to their health, there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to buy and enjoy it.
Look, Mr. Geets, you say that you print health warnings on the packages, but not by choice. You print them on there because we have forced you to do that under government regulation. The tobacco company didn't come out and go, oh my goodness, my public service to the nation is to tell you that this is bad for you. You fought tooth and nail to not put warnings onto packaging, and you fight tooth and nail to resist every measure that governments have the sovereign right to put in their countries.
We are not for one moment disputing the sovereign right of governments, of lawmakers, as parliamentarians are called,
that's not true. You
to
do
pass
dispute
legislation.
It. But you do dispute it. You've taken, you joined the fight in Australia to take the Australian government to court. So you do dispute it. You've threatened the UK government that you may yet sue them. You've threatened our government that you may yet sue us.
Well, if I may, first of all, I think we all want laws that are intelligent, that are based on all the available evidence and that actually work.
That protect the health of our people.
We perfectly support public health agendas. The point is, do the laws work or do they
Surely
not
that's
work?
hypocritical. You support public health agendas and yet you peddle sticks of death to our people. Because that's what they are. Let's be clear. We've got 500,000 people in New Zealand who smoke. Half of them will die. Half of them will be sick. So you support public health? Surely that's hypocritical.
It's not hypocritical at all. It's a legal product consumed by 17% of your adult population.
That kills our people.
Mr. Geets is basically saying it's free choice. You can choose. People don't force you to smoke a cigarette. You make that choice.
And once you do, you are addicted. And they know that. The addiction is what continues our people to smoke. I ask our families who bury their members of their grandparents and their mothers and their fathers in the grounds every year, why do you still smoke? They are addicted. They don't want their children to smoke. They don't want their children to rise up and do the same dumb things and the dumb choices that they have made, that have seen that they are now addicted. It is a lifelong addiction that we try to change.
What do you say to the families of those people that Marama Fox is talking about?
Can I just address this that was said just now? There are more former smokers in the world today than current smokers. What you call addiction
because we're trying to help them do that.
It is hard to give up.
That's right.
Every smoker has a certain threshold at which he or she is able to give up smoking. So but this is not the issue. The issue is that people choose to smoke.
No, it is the issue. It is the issue.
As I said before, everybody at one point in their lives may find a reason why they want to stop. There are more former smokers than current smokers.
And there are more smokers of cigarettes who are buried in the ground. Look, for the last 27 years, I have not attended a funeral of someone in our family, and I've attended numerous funerals, who has died of natural causes. We have the highest rates in the world of Māori women of COPD. We have the highest rates in New Zealand for SIDS, for diabetes, for all these cancers, and they are putting our people in the graveyard. And you and your companies are addicting people to cigarettes and telling us that it's their free choice and that's fine, we're going to profit off the death of your people.
Mr Gates, can I go back to my original question, is what would you say? What do you say to those families that Marama Fox is talking about, the ones who are burying their loved ones?
Every kind of human suffering is tragic. There's no doubt about that.
But you profit from it.
We sell a product that creates diseases in smokers, not in every smoker. It's on our website. Everybody knows it, but people still want to consume it.
And you still want to improve your profit margins, which is why you threaten to sue governments who have the sovereign right to make legislation to introduce things like plain packaging.
Can I just address this, if I may? Because something comes into play here, which is our intellectual property. In our line of business, we have three types of assets. We have our people, we have our factories, and we have our brands. We spend a lot of time and effort and money to build these brands. We're a fast-moving consumer goods industry. So we cannot just sit back when one of these three key assets is taken away from us. Of course, we will defend the right to use our brands. We own them.
Mr Gates, will you defend that right in New Zealand? If we go ahead with plain packaging, are you going to take us to court as well?
Well, let's cross that bridge when we get there. For the moment, we're discussing whether...
I know, you've already threatened to take us to court.
Whether this law... I have not. Whether this law is actually, as I said before, evidence-based, intelligent, and will work.
In 2014, you threatened this government.
We'll come to that in a minute, but I just want a clear answer to this. If we go ahead with plain packaging, can you rule out taking legal action against New Zealand?
Of course I cannot rule anything out. As I said before, this is our intellectual property, but any kind of lawsuit is always the last resort. Why do you think I'm here now? And I'm grateful for the opportunity to contribute to the debate in public, to give our expertise to the decision-making process. Nobody will ever know more about our business than we do. We just want to make this contribution.
Mrs Fox, the point about intellectual property, this is a perfectly legal business. Why do you think we've got the right as a country to take that away from a perfectly legal business?
Because we are trying to save the lives of our people. We are trying to protect our children from growing up as orphans when their parents and their grandparents are buried in the ground. When we spend millions and millions of dollars, in fact billions of dollars, on in the health system, trying to battle health issues that are caused from smoking-related illnesses.
So I'm wondering where the line in the sand is then. So do you go to KFC and McDonald's and Coca-Cola and say you too must have plain packaging because we've got an epidemic of diabetes and obesity?
That's right, and we have already come out and said that we would like to introduce a sugar tax. We need to help and assist our nation grow healthy people. In fact, it's about raising a generation of young people who do not have to, in their adulthood, make a choice of whether to give up. We want a smoke-free generation.
You would make KFC and McDonald's and Coke plain pack as well, if you could?
What I would like to do is to see the health of our people improved, and if that means excise tax on sugar, then we are fully prepared to do that. In fact, we would like to see that introduced. We introduced in New Zealand, actually the Māori Party introduced, hiding the cigarette advertising, putting the counters so our children could not see cigarettes being sold next to lollies.
OK, well, let's get to the heart of this. Does it work, Mr Gates? Does it work to go to plain packaging? Does it discourage people from smoking? Does it make them give up?
Well, we have one real-life example, which is Australia, that introduced plain packaging in December 2012. Now, Australia, being the pioneer, went through a process where a lot of people, at certain points, spoke of unintended consequences. Oh, we didn't realize this would happen. And I'm going to come onto these now. In the case of New Zealand, we would be speaking about foreseeable outcomes because we have the experience from Australia. What's happened in Australia? In Australia, long-term consumption trends, which are going down, have not been impacted at all. It's the same graph. It doesn't fall off a cliff following December 2012.
Well, that's not what the Australians
That's
tell
number
us.
one.
They tell us that it's dropped by 14% since the introduction of plain packaging.
I am quoting official government statistics.
And so am I.
That's all I can do. The second thing is that this was meant to primarily fight underage smoking. Now, nobody wants people under the age of 18 to smoke. That's for sure. But the question is, why do they start smoking?
Wait on.
There are many studies from around the globe that investigate what is it that triggers this interest in that first cigarette. Packaging doesn't feature. What we've seen, however, is a growth in underage smoking by 30% in Australia since December 2012.
Okay.
And in parallel, if I may just finish, because there's a causal link here, we have also seen an increase in illicit trade in tobacco products by almost the same percentage.
In Australia.
In Australia,
We'll come
absolutely.
We'll come to the black market issues a bit later, but I just want to talk to you about the evidence that you're producing there. An independent study that was commissioned by the Australian government says that it did lower the number of people smoking, 100,000 fewer people smoking as a result of plain packaging. That's got to be good, doesn't it?
Long-term trends are stable. And you must not forget one other element in Australia, which is also already in place in this country. Australia, in parallel to the introduction of plain packaging, introduced annual tax hikes of 12.5% increase.
They did, but the
what
research
contributes
mitigates-
what
No,
when
the
even the
research
long-term trends,
mitigates-
even under these draconic circumstances,
took that into account.
draconic. Of course,
Are
they're
you kidding
draconic.
me? Look, you're a doctor, and that seems to give you some sort of credibility when you work for Imperial Tobacco. But Dr. Goebbels was also a doctor, and what I say to you is that you are a doctor of death. You are peddling death and destruction and misery on our people.
All right, let's keep to the topic at hand. Look, so Mr. Geets is saying that it doesn't work at all. It doesn't discourage underage smokers at all.
That's not true at all. Of course it discourages underage smokers. Why would Imperial Tobacco pay exorbitant prices to have their brands free right behind the counter, right next to the lollies in a shop? Why do you need to put them there? We had to get legislation into this country to hide that from our children. So if Imperial Tobacco thought that they were not peddling their brand of death to our young people, then they would not be fighting so hard to ensure that they can continue to profit off our death.
Isn't that the biggest proof that it is working? Because you are spending so much money trying to stop it. Big Tobacco is.
No, of course we're trying to stop it. I explained to you before, and I'll go into it in more detail now. Why do we need our brands? We need our brands to compete with other manufacturers in our industry sector. If the brands are taken away from us and the consumer can only go by price, we can only compete over price, what happens, and any economist will tell you that, is that there's a downward spiral. There's what is called down trading.
All tobacco
People go for the ever cheaper.
Let him finish, Mrs.
Just
Fox.
finish my sentence.
Let him finish.
And my line of thought here. Ever cheaper products are sought by consumers if price is the only point that we can compete on. Now, let me tell you one thing. The cheapest products will always be peddled by the criminals because they don't collect taxes for the government. Of course they have the cheapest product. The other thing, however, is that they sell to children. And that's where the causal link comes into it. Cigarettes become more accessible and more affordable, and therefore underage smoking has risen.
Can I ask you a question? But here is a question then. If you know, and we can prove that a dairy in West Auckland is selling cigarettes to children illegally, will you remove your cigarettes from those stores?
We will absolutely, totally support any penalties for retailers that are caught selling to underage
knowing
people.
that
of course we will.
So you would remove your products from the shops that can be proven to be selling cigarettes to children.
There must be degrees of penalties which should be enshrined in law. So as you know.
But if you don't want them sold to children, you could pull them yourself.
The first time they pay a fine, the second time they pay a higher fine, the third time we pull. Of course we do. We support any measures that are effective in fighting
What
underage
self-imposed
smoking.
measures have you got that will take cigarettes out of the hands of children where storekeepers are known to be selling them to those children?
Well, let me repeat myself. Any storekeeper,
Self-imposed.
any storekeeper that is caught selling these must be penalised, and this should be part of an intelligent law that works. The criminals, however, will never be penalised. They will sell
Where's your
regardless.
evidence? Where's your evidence in New Zealand of criminal behaviour in the black market selling of
We
cigarettes?
are currently, well, black market is always criminal and illegal by definition.
New Zealand?
We are currently talking about the experience in Australia and about the fact that...
Do you have any evidence relating to New Zealand, Mr. Geets? Because the Customs Department and the police say there's no indication of organised crime being involved in the illicit tobacco trade here.
Yet, there was never any organised crime involved in the illicit trade in Australia before the introduction of plain packaging. Australia is an isolated continent with a lot of blue water around it. They never needed it. Yeah, they never needed to fight this phenomenon. It didn't exist. Last October, the Australian Minister for Immigration Protection of Borders announced with great fanfare that he was putting in place for the first time in history a special task force dedicated to nothing else but fighting, as he called
so you're
them,
here doing
the
a public
organised
service.
crime
This is your
syndicates
public service to the
peddling
people of
illicit
Aotearoa.
trade in
Thank
tobacco
you.
products.
Mrs Fox, you could be opening the door to a black market.
Look, if this is his public service announcement out of the goodness of his heart to ensure that black market does not start in New Zealand because the government is going to improve legislation to ensure that our people are not suffering and dying from the consumption and the addiction of cigarettes, then, you know, my heart bleeds for you. Absolutely.
I am not making any public service announcements here. I am telling you the experience from Australia. And believe me, if the criminals who never, ever, ever had Australia on the radar screen found Australia, they will find New Zealand.
Look, but the fact is, if consumption drops, then demand drops. If demand drops, then we don't have a black market to sell to.
You must differentiate between legal consumption and illegal consumption.
We're running out of time, so before we go, Mr Geets, I just want to know, will you fight if New Zealand, brings in greater restrictions on smoking, you know, bans on smoking in your car, bans on smoking at the park, because New Zealand aims to be smoke-free by 2025. There's more of this coming.
I am here to engage and contribute in the discussion. There is a raft, a shopping list, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way.
Legal action is one of the options available
of
to
regulation,
you. Will you take it?
And some of these items are absolutely something that we are more than happy to discuss and support. Plain packaging is where we draw the line.
Look, Imperial Tobacco make billions of dollars every year profiting off misery and death. You are a peddler of death. That is what you get your money from. And you come to New Zealand in some public service to help us in the debate when we already know that it kills our children.
Mrs Fox, you've made that point. We're out of time. We need to leave it there.
A legal product consumed by 17% of the adult population.
Look, I'm not going to listen to you. I think that you should crawl back into the hole that is reserved for the corporate executioners like yourself.
Mrs Fox, he's an invited guest. Thank you both for joining me this morning. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me anyway.
Thank you for travelling to New Zealand, and to Mrs Fox for joining us for at least the lion's share of that conversation. Welcome back. Well, we just want to acknowledge how that last interview ended. We're not about personal insult, and so we would like to thank Mr Geets for his time today and coming to the nation for that interview.
Yeah, obviously we do not condone personal attacks. Now,
you're back with The Nation. In our panel, former Green Party Chief of Staff Andrew Campbell, Phil O'Reilly, the founder of consultancy Iron Duke Partners, and of course Paddy. Thanks for being with us. A debate there, a lively and impassioned debate about tobacco and whether we should go to plain packaging. But did Marama Fox cross the line? We don't condone personal insults on this program. Appreciate Mr Geets coming. Did she go too far? How will it play out, Andrew?
Oh, look, I mean, I think I can actually understand why this is an emotional issue for her. As she said, I mean, every funeral she's attended in the last 24 years has been smoking related, and it is a huge issue in the Māori community. So I kind of think often you kind of get in these panels and people say, oh, you know, you got emotional and you lose credibility in that. I think it is an emotional issue. People are dying as a result of the product that these people sell. And, you know, it's easy for him to sit there and earning, I'm sure, a very, very large salary and come across as cool, calm and collected. Well, those who are actually campaigning to save lives, I think it's okay they get a bit bit emotional about
Phil,
it.
passionate or out of line?
Oh, probably out of line. But actually, the biggest issue I thought was Marama was focusing on the wrong thing. These guys are going to be there as long as tobacco is legal. If you want to get rid of them, ban it. You're not going to do that. The best target is to say, well, how do we make sure that Marama Pacific people, in her case, stop smoking? Don't worry about these other guys. Get on with talking to the people who are doing the smoking. The young kids may be taking it up. Educate them. That's the way to beat these characters, not by insulting them in a television studio.
Twitter feedback, Peter, it's critical of her.
I guess I sort of made a resolution not to commentate on tobacco, but I'll make an exception here. There was a lot of emotion out there, but the simple fact is this. We don't need any more. You will not see someone dying of lung cancer who does not tell you on their deathbed that they wish that they gave up. Yeah. And you don't need emotion or anything like that, words or anything like that to say it. My personal view is that we should be doing more to ban smoking, but we don't need emotion and words, we just need actions.
And what didn't come up in that, which was interesting, I mean, I was thinking about it. I mean, I am a smoker, and I really, really wish I'd never started. And one of the things that got me into it was brands. I remember the very first packet of cigarettes I bought, I remembered the brand that my uncle smoked when I was a kid. When I restarted smoking, it was the brand in Europe that was cool at the time. The brand is as addictive almost as the nicotine.
So you think a disgusting label is going to...
Particularly when people start, it's the availability of it. I mean, that's why they want to protect the brand. They know how valuable the brand is to drawing people in. Phil, it's advertising.
Phil, you're a businessman, and Mr. Geets talked about this. We're taking away intellectual property rights, he claims, of a perfectly legal business. And who says it's going to stop there? They could come for someone else's packaging.
Yeah, well, the slippery slope argument I don't think works. When we banned tobacco advertising, 1992, and we didn't ban any other advertising, so I'm not sure about the slippery slope argument, actually. The point is, I think, that you've got so much else going on. If you go buy a packet of fags in a supermarket, man, it's like crossing the Berlin Wall, isn't it? You've got to open the thing, and the person's got to get the fag out for you, and you've got to get some evidence that you're over 18. So I think my sense is that the branding piece has become less important over time. You need to be cautious about simply young kids going into buying the cheapest cigarettes. That's also going to be a bit of an issue for you. My sense is we've done enough in that space. My sense is much more public education now, much more about getting kids in schools. That's, I think, the next thing to do, not so much political capital on the brand so much.
I would like to have seen this question asked, or I would like to ask this question of Big Tobacco. Why not fund every cent of giving up smoking medication and courses and everything? Why not put the money on the table and say anyone who walks into their GP and asks for patches or what have you, we will fund that. We will reimburse that. Why don't they do that? Why don't they do that?
Well, Marama did ask him an interesting question, which was, if we find a dairy that's selling your brand to kids, will you withdraw your product? And I don't think we got a straight answer to that.
Well, it's crocodile tears.
Third time he said he would.
This is the reality, is they come across on these shows as very rational. I mean, a good point here is, this relates back to the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement in terms of the investor-state disputes mechanisms. He didn't rule out that they wouldn't seek to utilise mechanisms that are available against the government legislating here. So, I mean, I think that, on one hand, they kind of say these nice things and, education and whatnot. The reason they're protecting that brand, the reason they're protecting their advertising is they know that is the best way to hook beginner smokers. And once you've started smoking, you're in. So,
all right.